am Dracula. I have been expecting you.
So, I'm going to start off just telling us the basic premise of the game then.
Well, the core idea is it's a ghost hunting game. So you play a paranormal investigator, and your job is to find ghosts and gather evidence for their existence. And the different thing about this game is that it takes place in the real world. So it's a game where you explore your neighborhood, or you explore a particular physical area. So it's not a game where you're sitting on your couch and shooting things, but where you go out and you explore a real area and you find things in that area, and you get to learn where things are and discover a story, essentially. It's a little bit sort of like a mystery adventure game. So we think of it as sort of an attempt to reinvent the Gothic ghost story using sort of modern technology. So it has that idea of mystery in it.
The augmented reality of where you're looking for your actual world, but it's actually a game world at the same time.
Yes. So essentially, there's a lot of talk about Oculus Rift at the moment, right? What we're trying to do is the exact opposite, right? Rather than putting you into the game world, and so you don't see anything else in the game world, we try and put the game world out into your world. So it's completely the opposite of Oculus Rift. So essentially, we're trying to make the real world sort of magical. So we have audio design and visual design that tries to support this. So if you look at our visuals, and I could show you some here maybe, if they'll show up here. Oh, they're going to be showing the other way from your camera. We can show some later. But they're quite realistic, photorealistic. They're made from real photographs. They're not cartoony. They're intended to look real. And the same thing with our audio. Our audio design is intended to sort of help this illusion that it could be real. And this is something that's very common in ghost stories. Like I'm sure you're familiar with Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity, all these types of things. And they have this baseline that it could be real, or maybe even it is real. And then you have to sort of discover, okay, maybe it's not real, but that's the whole premise. And this is sort of a very old Gothic storytelling technique. If you look at classic Gothic novels like Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's presented as a body of evidence, like newspaper clippings, personal letters, journal extracts, and so on. And the whole idea is that it is real. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make everything as realistic as we can.
Does that have like an ultimate goal or any specific path to follow, or is it very open-ended story, just idea?
Each of our games takes probably about an hour to play. You can play them again in different locations. They'll be different each time. Each game has two modes, and you can play them either in a specific location. So our Vampires game can be played in Trinity College in Dublin, where Bram Stoker was a student. Or you can play it in random mode, where the game will stage itself to where you are. So you can play anywhere. You can play Belfast. In random mode, it plays best in an open area, like a park or forest or somewhere where you can get to everywhere. And each game is sort of a little story that you discover. So we think of the Vampire game as sort of a riff on Dracula, if you will. It's not like a full adaptation of the novel, but it's sort of, we took some of the characters and we developed them a little bit, and we made up a little bit of a story that references the novel. And then what we're doing for the other games is sort of similar. So the shorter story-driven experiences is the idea. So we build up this story-based universe, and you encounter the characters. When you get to, I should say, when you get to a character in our game, you have this paranormal radar that looks like this, and you get to this radar, and it shows where the paranormal activity is, and you use the radar to find where the paranormal activity is exactly. And when you get close to it, your handset starts vibrating, and then you can switch to the augmented reality view, which is this one here, and then you can scan around and you can see the paranormal activity, the ghostly phenomena floating in the air, and then you take photos of it, and that photos go into your casebook, which is over here, where you unlock a little bit of story about this character. So essentially you find the characters and you discover their stories and you solve a mystery.
What stage of development are you at?
We've launched 4 games so far. So we have our own game engine on iOS and Android, and we're working on 6 more for release later this year.
Is that all very much based within like the idea of like Dracula, the classic tales, or adopt your own stories as well?
They're very different. We have the Dracula game is obviously vampire based. We have a steampunk game which is called Professor Herkelheimer's Amazing Temporal Phase Transfabulator. And the idea is that they're not ghosts, the characters in this game. They're time travelers. So the idea is it's a Victorian time traveling expedition has gone horribly wrong. The time travelers are now stuck in interdimensional limbo, and you can find them using our app. We have one that's based on pirates, and we have one that's based on musical ghosts that is set in Galway. But it's a game you can play anywhere.
What platforms do you release on?
We're on Android and iOS, so it works on your Android phone or your iPhone. It's fine. We're working on something exciting going forward, which is that we want to open up our platform so anyone can write their own games. So you can upload your own ghosts and your own sound, and then you can invite your friends to play.
I suppose as well, it has more uses in that it has the area recognition as well as being just for storytelling. It can also be like a touring facility as well.
It could be what, sorry?
Like a touring facility, like an audio tour as well. It's once you do the it's going to be endless possibilities as well. It's very interesting. I've seen nothing like it before.
I don't think there is anything quite like it. I mean, there are a few location-based games out there, but they're very different from what we're doing. They're sort of very gameplay intense, like games like Ingress, for example. Our stuff is much more sort of story-driven, character-driven. It's not as competitive. It's not as fast. It's more sort of a very different type of experience, really.
So enjoyed the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Last final closing statements?
I don't think so. I think you've asked all the questions.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
And might I say you have a very fine beard, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.